This woman was astonished to learn that her father had left her a house in his will. The property was the family's long-forgotten home, abandoned for years. When she visited, she turned pale upon discovering someone inside, but that was just the beginning of the surprises awaiting her. Megan barely had time to process her father's sudden death. As his only remaining family member, she was responsible for organizing the funeral and managing all the arrangements. Once that was finally behind her, she received an invitation from the notary regarding the reading of her father's will. She sighed deeply as she read the invitation. The last thing she wanted to think about was inheritance. She was still grappling with her loss. Nevertheless, she decided to attend the reading, hoping to put this chapter behind her. When the notary revealed the contents of the will, Megan was taken aback. Her father had left her a house. "What do you mean, a house?" she asked, astonished. She had no idea her father owned another property. "Where is it?" The notary explained that it was the family home, a place that had been passed down for generations but had long been forgotten. Megan could hardly recall her father ever mentioning it. Leaving the notary's office, she felt a mix of confusion and curiosity. What would the house look like? Could she possibly live there? Determined to find out, she decided to visit the property, even though it was already late afternoon. As dusk began to settle, she arrived at the address and was taken aback by the expansive driveway and the garden leading up to the house. "This place is huge," she murmured in disbelief as she drove up, but as the house came into view, a wave of tension washed over her. Halfway up the driveway, she froze. Despite the house being shrouded in darkness, one light flickered on inside. Confused, she stared at it. The house had been abandoned for years, and it was boarded up. How could there be a light? The solitary glow in the desolate house sent chills down her spine, deepening the mystery of her inheritance. Maybe there is someone inside, Megan thought, her breath halting at the thought. If that was the case, she needed to call for help. But she realized she could hardly do that because a light was burning. She needed to know what was happening, so she exited her car and carefully continued on foot. As Megan approached the house, her breath and footsteps were the only sounds in the stillness. Suddenly, she gasped at the sight of a shadow flitting beside the light. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. Was it a person or something else? Her heart raced as the possibility of someone being inside surged. Should she call for help? Taking a few deep breaths to steady herself, she pressed on, determined to find answers. Just as she neared the front door, she stepped on a twig that snapped loudly beneath her weight. She froze, holding her breath as the sound echoed through the night. Then she heard it, sounds from inside. Realization hit her. Someone was indeed inside, and the twig had alerted them. She heard stumbling followed by hurried footsteps, and it dawned on her that the person was fleeing. Without thinking, she yanked the door open, just in time to see a tall figure dart through the back door. Pale with shock, Megan rushed to the back but found no one. Locking the door behind her, she searched the house, understanding that it was a refuge for the homeless. She had scared the intruder away, leaving her alone in the eerie silence. Taking deep breaths, she tried to calm her racing heart. "Well, let's see what this house is about," Megan said as she started to look around. In each room she walked into, her eyes grew wider. "This is amazing." Even though the house had been abandoned long ago, Megan could still see the beauty of what it once was. It needed a lot of work, but Megan knew it was worth it and decided to renovate, not aware that this decision would come with incredible side effects. In the following days, Megan organized everything and made sure that one bedroom and the kitchen were the first to be done, so she could already move in while she renovated the rest of the house. As soon as Megan moved into the old house and began renovations, strange occurrences began to unfold. At first, she dismissed the odd scuffling sounds echoing through the walls, attributing them to the age of the structure. Assuming it was just mice, she set traps, but to her confusion, she never caught a single one or even spotted any. Things escalated when she started hearing whispers and muffled voices while working. The unsettling thought of the homeless person she had encountered on her first visit crept back into her mind. Was that person still lurking around? Despite her frequent checks to ensure all doors and windows were locked, she found nothing amiss. Although the situation unnerved her, she felt a semblance of safety. One night, a loud scraping noise jolted her awake, leaving her tense and restless for the rest of the night. Frustrated, she decided to install cameras to monitor the house. Yet, every time she checked the feed, there was nothing unusual. As she focused on the renovations, she noticed the sounds had ceased, especially in the last 3 bedrooms she had saved for last. While clearing out one room, she moved a large closet and discovered a hidden door behind it. Intrigued and apprehensive, she felt compelled to uncover what lay beyond. What is this? The strange proportions of the rooms and the hidden door confused Megan, but also made her very curious. She grabbed the schematics of the house, and when she took a closer look, she noticed these chambers weren't supposed to be like this and that the door wasn't originally there either. First, weird sounds confused and scared her, and now she discovered a strange hidden door. This house kept surprising her. Megan suddenly realized that the secret doorway might hold the answers she sought. Gathering her courage, she pulled it open, her heart racing with curiosity and anxiety. After some effort, the door creaked open and she froze. recognizing the sound that had woken her earlier. A closet blocked the entrance, and all the doors and windows were locked. Stepping into the dim room, Megan frowned as she surveyed her surroundings. A window on the far side, previously hidden from her view, was covered in thick vegetation. As she pushed the foliage aside, more light flooded in, illuminating the space. But what she saw next left her in shock. The room was cluttered with furniture, but it was the items strewn across the couches and floor that caught her attention. Sleeping bags and leftover food packaging littered the area. Staring in disbelief, Megan's mind raced with questions. A chill ran down her spine as she recalled her first moments in the house. Had someone really never left? Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The strange noises she had heard weren't just her imagination. There had been an intruder all along. Panic surged through her as she realized she needed to escape the room and seek help immediately. As Megan hurriedly made her way to the door, she accidentally bumped into the closet. Megan swore softly as she rubbed the sore spot on her knee, but then she heard something that caused her to back off immediately. After she had hit the closet, a low thump came from within. Megan's mind worked in overdrive as she realized she wasn't alone in the room. She held her breath as she took out her phone and entered the emergency number. Then she took a breath and shouted, "Show yourself, or I will call the police." Megan didn't want to wait long and put her words into action when she pressed the call button on her phone. She then put her phone on speaker so the person in the closet could hear. The operator answered, "What's the emergency?" The operator's voice sounded out of the phone. Megan opened her mouth to answer, but the closet door sprang open right then, and a figure emerged from inside. Megan's heart skipped a beat due to the sudden movement, and she stared at the person with a surprised expression. "Please hang up," the girl who had just exited the closet begged. She folded her hands in front of her face and looked very anxious. Megan could only stare at the 20-something-year-old girl. This was the last thing she had expected, but things got even more confusing. "We don't want any trouble," the girl said. Before Megan could fully process what the girl had said, 4 more kids, all around the same age as the girl, appeared from the closet. Megan stared at the 5 kids with astonishment. They looked very anxious and didn't appear well kept. Megan felt very confused and had a slight concern about what was going on. It all happened quickly, and Megan was still on the phone with the operator. "Hello. Tell me what's going on," the operator said. But Megan looked at the group before her and knew what to do. She decided to listen to the girl's plea and hung up the phone. She wanted to hear them out, but she wouldn't act all nice and sweet just because the intruders turned out to be younger than she expected. "What's going on? Who are you? What are you doing here?" she demanded in a strict tone. The girl who appeared first stepped forward and thanked Megan for hanging up, immediately continuing with an apology. A timid voice broke the silence. "My name is Julia, and we're very sorry," the girl said, her eyes cast downward. As Julia continued to explain, Megan's initial fear gave way to understanding. These kids had been in the foster system, never adopted, and were forced to fend for themselves after turning 18. They had been living in the house for months, taking advantage of the basic necessities that Megan's presence had inadvertently provided. "We didn't mean to scare you," Julia repeated, her apology genuine. "But since you've been here, our lives have been so much better. There's skeet, and food is easier to get." Megan's frown deepened as she realized the extent of their situation. Julia hastily added that they hadn't taken much from her, as if to alleviate any guilt. As the girl carefully made her way to the window, Megan's perspective shifted. She saw the nervousness and shame in their eyes, and their apology seemed sincere. The more she looked at them, the more she wanted to help. An idea struck her. The house was too big for her alone, and she had no plans for the rooms that needed renovation. She proposed a deal. If they helped with the renovations, they could stay in the house until they got back on their feet. The offer was met with a mix of surprise and gratitude. As they began working together, something remarkable happened. They formed a tight-knit family. The house, once a symbol of abandonment and neglect, was transformed into a warm and welcoming home. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.